The Russian-Ukraine war has led the world to witness one of the heftiest wars our generation has ever seen. The war between two countries for their claimed motherland has been battled with blood, sweat, and tears and has been the talk of the town since day one. But what still remains as a surprise to many is the muted war for oil between the same countries. With Putin's master plan to attack countries and with scarcity of fuel rather than explosion of missiles. How effective has Vladmir's plans been against Ukraine's unbelievable fight back? How has this affected fuel prices around the world? What does the West have to say about this silent fuel war? And most importantly, what's next? Watch the video till the very end as we explain to you about Putin's master plan that has shocked the whole of the US and Europe. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon so you'll never miss another update from us. The sudden surge of fuel prices across the globe and the simultaneous war between Russia and Ukraine might have been two flashing headlines that a commoner wouldn't have connected. But the strategy of attacking the global economy with fuel prices to sustain his nation was one which Putin had scheduled a lot earlier than his actual attack on Ukraine. This was paired with the impending energy crisis that increased non-stop in Europe, where the soaring gas and oil prices started affecting everyone's day-to-day. It is no news that most of the European Union is dependent on oil and gas supplied by Russia. As soon as Putin announced his planned military mission against Ukraine, the West, as an attempt to weaken the Russian economy, started heavily imposing taxes on the Russian commodities. The move, which was intended to cause harm for Putin and his men, has ironically caused more losses for the West than it has for the Russian economy. All thanks to Putin's carefully crafted master plan. The battle has necessitated cuts in output as expenses shot up around the world. This, in turn, has finally left the Western states to negotiate a price cap with Russia for their fuel needs. These negotiations can finally mark the possible red line for Moscow, which until now was sailing its boat from selling energy products to the west of the Western world. Just a few weeks ago, a group of 7 countries, which included a European Union and Australia, charged a price cap on Russia seaborne crude oil at $60 a barrel. However, Putin was nowhere close to happy with these decisions and took revenge on the West by claiming that his country would not accept these conditions. The president was so unhappy with the insane price caps that he was even ready to reduce production to not succumb to the price caps. As for our reaction, I have already said that we will simply not sell to those countries that make such decisions. We will think maybe even about a possible, if necessary, reduction in production. Putin told this to reporters in a news conference in the Kyrgyz capital, Bishkek. About a month ago, Saudi Arabia had specifically pointed out that the OPEC Plus had carefully planned its oil output cuts. This additional move was made with the intention to offset the market forces amidst the declining prices, while simultaneously refusing to report that the nation was actually contemplating a boost in output. This has of late become a bone of contention between the West and Arab nations and has activated a price cap now. While the settlements happened relatively quickly and the crude oil prices were mutually agreed upon, some reservations by nations like Poland, the European Union, are yet to find common ground for capping gas prices. The European Central Bank has communicated concern regarding the potential threat to financial markets from the EU-wide cap on natural gas prices. The price cap has received both positive and negative responses. While the majority of nations like Belgium, Italy, and Poland see it as a strategy to protect consumers and economies from the shock of high energy costs, other influential states like Germany have completely dismissed the idea of any cap. Germany claimed that setting a cap on crude oil prices would only make it more difficult to secure supply. As of now, debates and discussions are still being held regarding the issue, and a final decision will be made in a meeting to be held next week. But are price caps an effective way to control oil exports? Well, not exactly. Despite popular belief, the price cap is in no way an action to end Russian crude exports. Then why are they being opposed? Ironically, the price caps are actually imposed with the aim to ensure continuous fuel supply for the world despite ever-tightening regulations and sanctions. But here's the catch. These supplies are not for the Western countries and their respective markets. Countries like China and India have fully capitalized this situation and have taken full advantage of the discounted oil prices. Many third world countries have been purchasing Russian crude oil in massive quantities at unbelievable discounts ever since the start of the war and will continue to do so. The reason behind why the Western markets won't take advantage of such a good deal on crude oil is rather political and not economical. The West wants to limit Russia's profits, which are mainly used to finance its war effort, by assuring that the current discounts are permanent. The plan has been successful, but the West had to bear its own losses in the battle. A few months ago, gas prices had hit an all-time high due to the say. Obviously, the Russian war once again had a lot more role in this price hike. Russia, being a major gas supplier, shook up the market forces of demand and supply with the invasion. However, things have started to look a lot better as gas prices have finally started to see a downward curve as European countries had luckily stocked up on winter supplies to guard against a possible shortage. This might mark the beginning of the end of the war as Russia cannot keep fueling its army longer at such discounted oil rates. Putin might have miscalculated a few points, which possibly could end the war anytime soon now. For beginners, the length of the battle was clearly underestimated. Ukraine, which has been at war exponentially longer than Putin anticipated, has slowly started to weaken in the economical war. His second and perhaps major miscalculation was the degree of which he believed Russian oil had the power to disrupt the international economic order without facing any pushback. Putin assumed that his country's leverage over the energy market would easily permit him to break the West and prevent his rivalries from approving multilateral measures like the price cap. These measures have been severely limited his ability to wage economic warfare. But the fact is, Russia is in no position to take on the West economically, at least single-handedly. But if there is ever going to be a marketing battle between the West and Russia, Putin is hands-on going to win the award. Russia is the second largest producer of crude oil after Saudi Arabia and is the inviolable member of the oil-producing nations called the OPEC that decides on oil production outputs. As per Putin's admission, the long war will only deteriorate the state of matters. After Ukraine has launched an attack on the Russian air bases, a brand new group of missile strikes has been launched targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, leading to insane power shortages and the military aid from the West for Ukraine. While at one side, it does seem like the war might end very soon. Assertions like this do make one wonder whether the battle has just begun. We hope all the citizens who are part of the war remain safe and sound.